Hey guys, I'm back again working on my black indoor CQB GSG9 Rainbow 6 inspired loadout, and I'm revising my helmet a little bit. What you might notice from the previous video is I've changed the earpieces here, but I'm going to address that later in the video because this was a at-home 3D print. I have since made some revisions to it and I'm waiting on the Shapeways print. But what I'm doing today is installing the fan system. Now I ran these ESS turbo fans in a couple of games and they are fogging. First I thought it was the goggles, but then thinking about it and a lot of the comments that you guys have made, what's happening here is the goggles have nowhere to get fresh air from. They butt up here under the helmet when I have them on. So if they're taking air from up here, it's basically coming off my sweaty head anyway. So that's bad air, you don't want that. And if they're trying to take it from the bottom, I got my mouth down here, so all the air coming from the bottom is hot air, and all the air circulating up here and kind of collecting with nowhere to escape is hot. So I think all they're doing is just cycling around hot sweaty air, and that causes fogging. Now one solution to that might be is to kind of make some openings down here maybe for some air to get in so the fan has fresh air to deal with, but I'm not sure it's gonna work. I don't know how many holes I want to make in this helmet to test it, so I'm just gonna ditch these. I'm gonna swap them out for regular ESS goggles, non-turbofan ones, because I like how they fit and they work really well with the slower. So I'll basically reassemble this with regular goggles. That would also get rid of this battery pack here on the strap because that's what powers the goggles, and maybe I'll have a little better fit without this little notch here for the fan. What I'm doing to alleviate the fog is I got this Cyclone mic fan kit off the internet, and again thanks to one of my viewers for recommending it. Those constructive criticism comments are actually very helpful. Oftentimes you have good links and good products for me to try, so I'm always open to those. So somebody mentioned this, I checked out a couple videos, it seems legit, makes sense, so I ordered it up. What it basically is as you can see, I have it temporarily fit here. It's a fan system, so it takes in fresh air here and then pumps it through this hose, and the hose you could run to your goggles obviously. Has a wire going to the battery pack, which I have again temporarily velcro to the back here. It takes four I think AAA batteries, the little A's, and you flip it on, air goes in here, fresh air comes out wherever this hose is pointing. Makes perfect sense to me. This way I'm drawing air from a fresh source and pumping it directly into the goggles. Pretty much I think what this system's doing, but since it's remote I can control where the air is coming from instead of it being all in this hot mix where my helmet meets the goggles. That doesn't seem to be working. So what I want to do is, I'm not a huge fan of all this extra stuff on my helmet. I want to minimize it. And the idea is to cut an opening like this with a hole saw up here on the top, and then make a little indent as well for this part where it starts protruding the hose. And I'm going to cut down these little screw adjustments just a little bit so I could kind of have the fan floating in between, in and out of the helmet. Half of it will be above, half of it will be in the helmet. I'll then pad it with some foam underneath, and it should give me a minimal profile on top, but it'll be able to draw fresh air, and I could run the line inside between the pads straight on top of the goggles. So when I turn it on, just fresh air into the goggles. I'm going to take all the foam out, and I'll probably even vent the goggles with a couple of holes on the sides to give them room to escape. So that's the plan right now. And then the battery pack, we'll see how we end up with the wire situation. If there's enough wire, I'm going to try to tuck it maybe back here under the helmet, because I know this part right here just hangs away from my head, so I could put it here. Again, some Velcro and some foam. So let me go ahead, take all this off, swap out the goggles, drill a couple of holes in here, which I'm a little worried about, but I think it'll work. I did a test run here on some wood and it seems to be working fine. And then I'll come back with the fan system. Okay guys, so here's the helmet after I did a lot of modding to it. First thing I did was bore a hole up here with a hole saw, and it was a little bit bigger than the fan diameter here, not counting the little supports. Then I drew out this line here and cut it out. I have to say I did a pretty crappy job cutting it. The tool was pretty unwieldy. It's like a zip saw. I'm not sure, maybe a jigsaw would work better, but with the pads down there, and I would have done it a little bit differently if I had done it again. Definitely would have planned this more. It's a pretty ugly line, so I'm not thrilled about that. But putting that aside, then I dropped the fan in here. I had to cut down these supports a little more than halfway up, so then I could lower the fan into the helmet. As you can see, it sits a little more than halfway into the helmet, just about there. And then I drilled a couple of holes under the supports, ran some zip ties, and that holds this in place. Then here I drilled 2 more holes and ran a zip tie in a loop, and that holds this portion from dipping down. It just kind of stays level. And then I actually had to extend this a little bit more than I had originally planned to have the hose dip down without kinking. Inside you can see behind this pad there's the hose. It's held in place by that zip tie that I showed you. Then it runs between the pads. This pad comes over the top and covers it. And then I had these holes from when I took off the original MVG mount, which were pretty useless. So I ran a zip tie that locked on another zip tie locking piece, and that keeps the hose pretty much in place. I have yet to cut it. I want to get the goggles on here, measure it out, make sure everything's right, and then cut it off. The wire runs back here to the battery pack, and then I put some Velcro on the inside here, and the battery pack connects here. Drop in this pad. Hopefully it'll also muffle some of the noise from the fan. Very non-intrusive. Only thing I have here obviously is this showing. I'm not nuts about this. I'm still figuring out how to cover it. Simple solution is just to put a piece of Velcro here to cover the ugly part. Maybe I'll do a little 3D printed visor that just kind of echoes the shape of the helmet. I've gone ahead and basically redid what I had done with the turbofans with just the regular ESS goggles. So I'm going to put that on, figure out where I need to cut the hose. I'm just waiting on the earpieces to show up so I can tell you guys more about them. So stay tuned, let's finish this up. Okay, I got all the pieces in. Some I had to wait on and some I had to make. And I'm ready to finally put this thing together and have a complete system. So the first thing I did was I was contemplating how to cover up this kind of ugly cutout that I had done. Original idea was to put a piece of Velcro, but that seemed a little cheap and it wouldn't really cover it up as clean as I wanted to. So I created a 3D printed piece that will sit right on top. I'll glue it in place in a second, but I want to show you how it covers up all these cutouts. So it just slides over the top. Once it's glued in, stays there permanently. The fan still has a fresh source of air, and all the other stuff I don't really want to see is covered underneath and protected from BB strikes. And then I also gave this a coat of several coats of the Plasti Dip Spray. It's great stuff. It kind of gives everything a rubbery finish, and it smooths out some of the 3D printed imperfections that are just inherent to 3D printing. So now I'm going to finish up the earpieces. I was waiting on the Shapeways print. I have my at-home printed version on here, as you can see, and they turn out pretty well actually, but it's hard to compete with the quality of the Shapeways print. I've also gone ahead and added a layer of the Plasti Dip to better match the finish of the helmet, because the stuff kind of looked a little too light. It probably would work, but why not have it match better and give it a little coat of protection as well. I will put these up on my Shapeways store in case anyone's dying to recreate this, but these are extremely expensive. As you can see, they're pretty big, and maybe not big by normal standards, but by 3D printing standards, these are really big. So they'll be very expensive, over $100. If you're feeling ambitious and you want to do this, go ahead and grab them. You will need to supply your own hardware and the foam, which I'll show you in a second. What I'm going to do is take these off and replace them with these. They're basically the same thing. I've done a few modifications after using these in the game. I noticed I was still getting the echo effect in here because it was a little too closed off and sound would bounce around. So I've redesigned them to have more openings on the side here, and then I've added openings all around and a couple even on the inside here to give you direct access to the ear. So just more openings, more room for sound to get in and get out, and give you more of that open air feeling, because that's the whole point of these, is to avoid the amplified headsets and go with the open air that still look cool and have actual function. I'm going to remove these so you can see how they attach, and then we'll put those back on. So as you can see, this is the IBH helmet that I obviously started with. The way these go in, it's a 2-screw system. There's the receiving piece, and the thread actually goes inside the hole, and then the screw goes in here. So on the part that's facing towards my skin, there is no protruding screws or nuts or bolts or anything. So just to make sure there's no harsh contact that could cause a scratch or any kind of injury. And then add a rubber washer just to soften the pressure on the plastic piece to reduce any possibility of cracking. Now you can see these are obviously different right now because this has had the Velcro added to it. So what I'm doing is to make these more comfortable and functional is I'm adding a headphone foam pad on here that basically leans up against my head, so I have nice soft padding on my head, and kind of extends these more inwards, so it's a nice solid connection between the helmet and my head, and there's no left to right movement. So these are the two pieces. Since I'm removing this, I'm going to put this aside, and I'm going to install Velcro on the inside of this earpiece, put them back together, and put it back on the helmet. So let me glue everything up, add all the Velcro, put everything back together, and then I'll come and give you a total overview and show you how the helmet looks on my head. Okay guys, I'm happy to say the project is finished. I swapped out the earpieces from my home 3D printed one for the Shapeways 3D printed one. I really liked what I've done to the redesign by adding more openings. These work really well. I put them on, it's almost like having nothing on. I think the air holes actually kind of make them look a little cooler, so that's an added bonus. I went back and put in all the foam and stuff on the inside, so that's good to go. The top piece, I now glued it in. It's in here permanently. The helmet is done. Now the next test is to take it to a real game and see how it performs. But if it fits well, I know the previous version worked really well, so I think this is going to only work that much better. My biggest concern is, will this keep me fog free? If this doesn't do it, I don't know. Maybe I'm just destined to fog. But I have a very strong feeling that it's going to work well. So stay tuned to the channel, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next gameplay when I use this thing, and I'll mention if it works well or not. You'll hear me. Also check out Instagram. I'm very active on there, and I'll probably be reporting on this pretty soon as I get a chance to try it out. So hopefully you like this revision. Maybe you got some inspiration for a project of your own. Again, I'll make these available on my storage, brainexplodercreations.com. If you feel ambitious, go ahead and grab them and follow this guide and build yourself a Rainbow 6 GSG9, very protective but very functional indoor helmet. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.